Engage President Jacob Zuma about his future will be taking place at the Sifakumahatu Presidential Guest House in Pretoria, and a reporter, Ofentse Setimo, is there and he joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Ofentse. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, a much talked about meeting. Who has arrived yet, and what have you seen there?
We're coming to you live from here at Ndlovu. That is the presidential guest house here in Pretoria, where it is expected that the ANC's top six is expected to pitch here and come and interact with President Jacob Zuma and discuss with him on the way forward before the State of the Nation as to whether he will be the one addressing the State of the Nation, or it might be the incoming president or the ANC president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. And from the information that we've heard, it's actually a deja vu, because back in 2008, just before the then president, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, was called off, among those that actually came to come and pay him a visit here at Ndlovu was the then SG Gwede Mantashe. So it's not yet clear as to whether what is going to transpire and what's the meeting going to mean to what's going to be the outcome of the meeting, especially for those that are waiting patiently to see whether President Jacob Zuma will actually issue the State of the Nation address, or it's actually going to be the ANC president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. So as we wait, there hasn't been any sign of any of the ANC officials actually making their way here, but we're still waiting patiently, and we can be here until the end of the night, like until midnight, if that's what it's going to take, in order to see what's going to happen. And from what we understand, there's a bit of a split within the top six. We understand that the current deputy SG, Ms. Jessie Duarte, and the former premier of the Free State are some of those that are still advocating for Mr. President Jacob Zuma to actually finish his term before he can be called off, before he can be recalled. So it's something that we're going to wait and see. It's not yet clear as to whether they're going to speak to us, but as we await their arrival here in Pretoria, we're going to try our utmost best to get a soundbite or an interview or anything of that like from them, and to find out what is the mindset within the whole top six, because the impression out there and the reports out there are that they're actually split on the recalling of Mr. Jacob Zuma. So it's going to take some time, but we're going to be out here. We're going to wait. It's still very calm. You know, the weather's very calm. It's still very calm. We're actually the only media house out here at Ndlovu. It's not yet clear as to whether we might have an exclusive, but it's the information that we have as the SABC that the top six of the ANC is actually going to come here and engage with President Jacob Zuma. It's not yet it's not yet late enough for us to preempt what's going to be the outcome of that engagement, but from the information that we have, the ANC president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, will not be joining the delegation that will be coming this side, and we're just going to wait and see what's going to happen as to whether the delegation will recall Mr. Jacob Zuma, or whether they're going to decide to vote for unity and ensure that there are no splinter groups once they decide to recall Mr. President Jacob Zuma. And from an earlier interview that we saw trending yesterday of one of our colleagues, Mr. Mzwandile Mbeje, who is the presidential correspondent, speaking to Mr. Jacob Zuma, who was then at the time when the interview was done, the president of the ANC. It was clear that Mr. Jacob Zuma gave an impression that should he be recalled, and then there's people who feel that he should still be on the helm, this might create a conflict, and it might create a splinter group within the ANC. So at the present moment, we've heard from the then president, the current president of the ANC, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, that is actually trying to maintain a peace and a unity within the ANC. So he's going to try and manage this transition from the one president to the other very carefully, to ensure that there's no tensions and to ensure that there's actually peace within the ANC and within the country. Back to studio.
Well, Ofentse, thank you so much. We'll certainly get in touch with you a little later on as that meeting gets underway. That is a reporter, Ofentse Setimo, outside the Ndlovu Presidential Guest House in Pretoria, where the ANC top six meeting to engage President Jacob Zuma about his future will be taking place in about a couple of hours from now.